Hi everyone, welcome back to the garage. My name's Logan, this is Watch Me Work. This should be a fairly simple project, and in fact you can't see it, but I'm still in my pajamas, so I'm hoping this is pretty quick. But what we're going to do today is we're going to be installing the Bajaworx windshield on, well, my motorcycle isn't here, but the piece that's important is here, the fairing mask and the headlight itself. I've already taken these off the bike. And we're going to install the Bajaworx windshield onto it. Now the instructions will be different for your machine, unless yours is the same as mine. Mine is a CRF 250L. This one just came off with, there's some bolt holes, some screw holes here, and same on the other side. So I just took it off. It came off fairly easily. I imagine all of these dual sport bikes are probably going to come apart pretty easily. They're meant to be fairly field serviceable. So what comes in the kit with the Bajaworx windshield is you get the windshield itself, and you get a little bag of hardware. Now I've already gone through and double checked that the hardware is correct. One of the things that they don't tell you, so they give you a list of tools that you need. They tell you that you need a hand drill. I'm going to go with a cordless drill here. And they say that you need a let me just double check here what it said. 7/32 or 5.5 millimeter drill bit, so I went with the 7/32 because that's what I have. They also tell you that you need a 3 millimeter Allen key, which I've got right here. One thing they don't tell you, because I looked in the bag and saw the little nuts that are in here, is you need an 8 millimeter wrench. So I get this little bitty baby wrench. They don't tell you that you need that, but obviously if there's a nut, you're going to need a wrench. The other thing they tell you that you need is the template with the screw holes drawn on it. Now this is actually on the back of the instructions, so once you cut this out, then the instructions, you kind of lose a piece of them. Now you don't lose too much actually, you can still kind of read them, but you'll just destroy the instruction sheet. You can download this template online according to the instructions. There's a website you can go to, so you could download this and you could print your own copy and then not destroy the instructions, but for me I kind of didn't really give a shit, so I just cut it up. And the other thing that you will need is masking tape. And it also mentions that you'll need a ruler. That's so that you can center. You can find the center. Now, obviously, if you have a Honda like mine, Honda's got this curved angle piece on the headlight here, and it's also curved back here. So it'll be really easy to find the center line because there's actually like a ridge on here, and we'll just be kind of lining it up with this. So without further ado, I guess we'll head into it. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take off a piece of masking tape here, and if I can find the edge of it. Come on now, there it is. So I'll take off a piece of masking tape, and I'm going to mask a line right along the center of this. That way I can, geez, this is a bit of a pain. So I'm going to make sure that I've got it lined up dead center before I start drilling any holes, because I don't want to have to order a new fairing online because I screwed this one up. Oh, come on, tape. Who did this to me? Who did this to me? I'm sure it was myself. Okay, definitely going to end up fast forwarding this part of the video, aren't we? Come on. I've never seen masking tape so stiff. I hope this comes off the windscreen. Alright, I guess we're not going to use this one. I'll go get some more tape and we'll come back. Okay, so we're back with a different type of masking tape. Hopefully this one will not embarrass me equally as much. Although it looks like I'm not off to a good start here. Come on, masking tape. Don't do this to me. Okay. Alright, okay, good. So we're going to get a piece of this here. Fairly long. It did start ripping too. But this is just going to help me find the exact center of the headlight. So I'm just going to line it up with the little peak here on this one and the valley of this one. Okay, that should bring us exactly to the center, if I get this correct. There. So this side of the tape should be center. It lines up with this little peak of the headlight here, and it lines up with the valley in the back there. So the other thing you can do I do have a measuring tape, just so that I don't screw this up, but my measuring tape is a little on the stiff side, so what do we got end to end here? End to end here we've got, I'll try from here, that's probably easier. So I've got just shy, I guess around 33, yeah, so 33 across, just right around 33, which means 16 and a half should be center, and I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like we are at 16 and a half. So my eyeballing was correct, at least according to my stiff, not so bendy measuring tape. That's really key, and I think if we're off by a millimeter or something like this, no one's going to see it, and I'm not going to scrutinize it too much because that'll just drive me insane. So the next thing I'm going to do, I don't want to drill into this or anything like this with the mask still attached with the headlight, so I got a screwdriver here. And I'm going to take this plastic piece off of the headlight, and it looks like it's easy enough. There's just some screws back here and here as well, so we will take those out. So it looks like you're going to want to be relatively careful here because I noticed some plastic residue on the screws, which leads me to believe that you don't want to over tighten these. They will strip the plastic on your fairing. So be careful with that. When you're loosening them, it's not as big of a deal because they're going to come out, but when you tighten them back in, you're going to want to be careful. That should release that for us. Yes, alright. So here's the headlight itself, and this is what they refer to as the mask, which I don't know if you're anything like me, but you're sick of all this COVID shit. You don't want to hear the word mask anymore. So I'm going to refer to it as a fairing. Put that over here. Alright, so we've got our fairing. Now we're going to attach our little template here. The template has a nice center line on it, so we're just going to line it up with the center line of the tape. Now it doesn't really specify how high up and down that you want to mount this, but the key obviously is going to be not to have these screws too close to the edge because you don't want them to lack structure. So I'm thinking probably right around here is around where we're going to land this thing. I imagine if it's up or down slightly, it doesn't matter too much. And I don't believe, yeah, the instructions don't really say how high to mount it because the instruction papers actually show a rectangular headlight here. But they show putting this line right above the rectangle, so I'm thinking fairly close down here to the headlight is where they expect you to mount this. So that's what we're going to do. We'll get our tape again. The key, of course, when you're drilling this is to take care not to damage the plastic. It does mention that in the instructions as well. It says take care not to damage the, you know what they call it, but we're going to call it a fairing. I know this is not the most exciting part of this video. I'm sure you all want to see me drill holes. So I don't know if the bottom of the headlight is going to line, or sorry, the bottom of the windscreen is going to line up exactly with this line. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but because this is a little, somebody put that Honda sticker on crooked. Uh-oh, they're going to get fired. So I'm going to, or maybe I put that on crooked. Maybe I'm the idiot. No, it's not Honda, it's me. Okay. So I'm going to mount this here. So my tape job was slightly less perfect than I thought. It's pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. At the top here, It doesn't line up exactly correct with the center of the windscreen, but I know that I drilled the holes correct, or I know that I lined it up about right, because these overhangs are even on both sides, and our little template here is even on both sides. It's very close. I'm just going to get a little extra picky here, I guess, because I don't want to have to do this more than once. I just want to make sure that this is exactly lined up here, or as best we can do. Okay, that's good there, I think. Those are equal from the corners, and those are equal up top. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how noticeable this will be if it's off ever so slightly, but the windscreen is fairly large, so obviously if you're off by a couple of degrees down here, then your windscreen is going to be all crooked up top, and you don't want that because it'll look like shit. So we'll finish taping this. When you cut this template out, even though the template is kind of shaped like this W, it doesn't really matter if you actually cut it out that way. Like, you could leave this connected all as one big piece if you wanted to. Just depends, I guess, on how you feel. But leaving it connected as one big piece might actually benefit you to some degree, because it would be more like stiff, you know. Have a little more structure to it than this. This is pretty loose. I don't know if it's maybe just that I left all this tape in my garage over the winter time or something, but holy crap. I don't remember masking tape being this difficult to deal with, to work with. You can tear a long piece and just tear it in half. So, this one now, I'm going to be very careful to get the end of it down. I want this to lay flush. That should cover that. And you'll want to do the same. Don't lose your tools or your screws. I'm going to move the screws away so they don't fall onto my floor. I'm going to move these for a second. So now you'll see this is a little not quite perfect, but let's just make a little. I really hope this comes off the fairing easy after. I've got crumbs all over me from the plastic dust of those screws that I warned you about. So the last thing we got to do is this end here. I'm trying to do this kind of quickly for the video, but also do it correctly so I don't screw my windshield up. Alright, so now we've got this ready to go. They mention in the video, or not in the video, they mention in the instructions about a punch. Now I assume that the punch is either A, to punch these holes out, or B, to just kind of make a little mark on here where your holes are going to be drilled. But as I like to say, you know, fortune favors the bold. We are just going to drill through the paper. Be very careful when you do this to line up the center of your drill bit with the center of these holes, because you want this to go in the right spot. And then just move your fingers out of the way so you don't drill your fingers. Alright. Sorry if that's a little loud. Now this is just plastic, so it drills pretty easily. What you really don't want to do, the main thing you don't want to do when you're drilling this to damage your fairing, is to let the drill bit slip, because it'll leave a huge scratch on its way. I hate drilling plastic. It's always such a chore. The little pieces go everywhere. Little crumbs, plastic crumbs. Alright, so we've got our holes drilled. That's the whole reason for this template. The rest of this job should be very simple. Now that the holes are drilled, it should just be a matter of attaching the windshield. Yeah, we'll get to it. At least it's not sticky this time. So one thing you can do, I don't think I need to, because I think that drilled, my drill bit's quite nice, a nice drill bit, so it did a good job. One thing you might want to do, this one has a little bit of, not much, is just clean up the little plastic scuffing around here. But there are spacers in the bag that should actually cover this anyway. So the next thing we're going to need is the windshield itself. I didn't unwrap this yet. I left it wrapped up because I didn't want to have a chance to scratch it before it gets on the bike and gets scratched off road anyway, but I didn't want to scratch it before we started. Ooh, it's so clean and shiny. Look at that. This is a nice piece of plastic, I have to say. I'm pleased with the quality of this Bajaworx product. So these holes should line up on here. I don't know, looks a little wonky, but we'll see. I don't know, let's hope so. They do say in the instructions on that sheet of paper, let me show it to you, I think it's still here. There's a square on this, and it tells you here, due to printer scaling variations, make sure this box is 1 inch by 1 inch. And I didn't do that because I decided I'm just going to run this thing out of the box and see what happens. But just a quick peek, unless the spacers take care of that difference in holes, I don't know, we'll see. Either way, I don't want to have to drill the holes again. So they tell you what the buildup is for these. I'm going to take out one at a time here. The buildup for this, you get a washer and a spacer and a screw, which is, I guess, technically a bolt because it's going into a nut, and you get a nut there. They call it an M5 nut, which means it's M5 refers to the threads. It's a 5mm shank or whatever on this bolt. It's a metric bolt. So, and the buildup on this is actually screw, washer, spacer. Actually, this goes above the windshield. So it's screw, washer, windshield, spacer, fairing, nut. So I'm going to start with one of these guys up front. Now, when you put these on, don't tighten them. Don't tighten them right away. Just get the little nut finger threaded, because you're going to want to have as much play in this as you can for when you go to install it. Just in case everything doesn't line up perfect. You can fiddle with it a little bit, and you can tinker with the alignment, and that's key when it comes to things. Especially if you, no blame to the Bajaworx people, but my getting into this project, quote unquote project, was pretty much just me opening the box, walking over to the garage, and saying, "Fuck it, we'll wing it." So if this doesn't work, I'm not going to blame them. It's more likely that it's my fault than theirs. So that hole didn't feel like it lined up perfectly, but it lined up quite well. Once I got it in there, it feels pretty secure. Now the last two, you know what? This might be okay. Once you get the spacers in there, those holes, I think they might actually line up. Like I said, none of this, if there is any problem with this, it's on me, not them. Alright, so I've noticed we actually have more spacers than I realized, which means that we probably need to use 2 spacers on this. Let me just double check the build up here. I threw that piece of paper on the floor. Please tell me it's not on the back of that other one. Of course it is, it's on the template. This is why they give you the option to download this. So it looks like the instructions show that's not particularly helpful. Alright, so we've got twice as many washers as I expected us to have. And I don't know where they go. And the truth is, it doesn't matter a ton, but I'm going to put it on the nut side, actually, because I will have only pieces of plastic touching plastic, rather than back here on the nut side. And they probably do want you to put it on the nut side, but I think I destroyed the paper a little too much to read it. So we're just going to put it on the nut side. That way I'm not tightening the nut directly on the back of the fairing. I'll be tightening it against the little washer, just like you would in any other situation. Usually you have a washer on both sides, the bolt and the nut, so I can see why they included 8. I probably just misread it. Where are we here? Okay. I'm not really looking at this. I'm trying to do this for you guys' sake, so I'm doing it by feel, which makes it a little slower, but it's okay. I don't mind. I've got a few extra minutes before work. I don't work until later today, so I'll put that in there. That whole line up really nicely. So I think that template, they must have a good printer over at Bajaworx, because the scaling seems to be good. I didn't have to measure that 1-inch block. That 1-inch block measurement thing is probably for mere mortals like you and I that would have a shitty printer at home, instead of a nice calibrated commercial printer or whatever they've got over there. So this hole doesn't line up super perfect, but it's a plastic piece, so you can fiddle with it. Remember, this is why we kept this loose. This feels pretty nice, I gotta say. Even not, like, I haven't even tightened this up and it already feels quite secure, so that's nice. I like that a lot. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling product, so let's get this tightened up. I don't know if I like the idea of using this little 3mm Allen key, but whatever. So they do tell you in the instructions not to over tighten this. They don't give you a torque value, so I can't tell you what over tightening this exactly means, but I'm assuming that we'll know when we get there. Yeah, that feels tight enough. Normally, when I'm working with screws and bolts and nuts and everything like this, I wouldn't be tightening it from this side. Usually what I would be doing is I'd be tightening it with a wrench, but I'm using the little Allen key on purpose here because I can't apply much torque to it with my fingers without hurting my fingers, and that keeps me from over tightening it. I'm so sorry everybody, my camera cut out. It only has a 20-minute recording limit and I wasn't paying attention to it. I don't know how far we got. I think we got to the point where I was reaching in and putting the screws into the holes. As you can see, it did actually line up. Everything lined up just fine. We got all the plastic washers and screws, stainless screws in there, and I put the headlight back into the fairing. When I put it back in, as I mentioned earlier, be very careful when you're lining up these screws and when you're tightening them, because if you over tighten them, they'll strip. This is just plastic and they're just screws threading directly into plastic. I'm not going to show you guys putting this back on the bike, but I will take it over, install it on the bike, and then I'll do a quick video just showing you what it looks like on the bike, or I'll take a picture and I'll put it at the end of the video. As I said, I'm sorry that this cut out. It was just me not paying attention to my recording time limit. So we'll take care of that in editing, and we'll go put this on the bike.
Alright, so here we are out in the driveway. I got this thing on the bike. I think it looks really great. It's got a really good curve to it. It fits on there nicely. It matches everything. So I gotta say, overall, I'm really happy with it, and the install wasn't too difficult, aside from those issues I ran into with the masking tape and my camera running out of time for recording. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, like and subscribe, but have a good day, and enjoy your new windshield if you just bought one like I did.